The 2025 NFL draft is officially over, so let's talk about how the Baltimore Ravens absolutely crushed it once again. My favorite picks, my favorite takeaways, and of course, let me know what you think. Here we go. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TTB Ravens Media. Bring you Ravens content every single day. I hope you all enjoyed the daily draft content. We hit a couple of channel records. Most views ever on a video. We did hit that. Shout out to the LaJohntay Wester video. So thank you all so much for the support. If you're new to the channel, new to the offseason, new to the, just the entire TTB Ravens family, welcome. I produce Ravens content every single day. This video talking about the Baltimore Ravens draft class. This is not going to be me analyzing every single player. Joshua and I are going to record a podcast. We'll talk about each player more individually. This is just me talking about the key highlights and the big points and everything that stood out and everything in between. So first off, let's talk about this entire class. All the names, just going from first to last, obviously started off with Malachi Starks round one. We then get Mike Green, we get Emory Jones, we get Teddy Buchanan, we get Carson Vincent, then Bilal Kone, BK is what he prefers to be called. So BK, Tyler Loop the kicker, LaJohntay Wester, Aeneas Peebles, who goes by Fub, and then Robert Longerbeam and Garrett Dellinger. All right, so that's the Ravens draft class. Now, why do I think they absolutely crushed it? And why is this different from previous years where they absolutely crushed it? Because let's be honest, the Ravens are typically pretty good at drafting. They get a lot of impact players. However, this was kind of the first year in the last few where I feel like they absolutely nailed every spot of need that they had. Any question that you could have about this Ravens roster, I think they filled it. Whether it's a question about, oh, can this guy be a starter? Or, hey, we need backup depth. Or are we keeping our kicker? The Ravens were able to give us an answer, okay? Because even if we do keep Justin Tucker, we still have Tyler just in case, right? If we have to get rid of Justin Tucker, we have Tyler just in case. So I think that's a really good pick right there. I think the kicker was very smart. Next up, you look at the Ravens secondary. That was a key, aspect that we were looking at. Marcus Williams was unplayable. The Ravens want to utilize three safeties, not tight ends. They do utilize three tight ends, but they wanted to utilize three safeties, and they went out and they got the best safety in the draft class. All right. He can do it all. He's the exact type of chess piece that Zachary Orr and previously, that's the type of guy Mike McDonald would want as well to help run this defense with Kyle Hamilton. I don't expect Darius Washington to stay because he seems frustrated about his $3 million after this year. So he will be here this year, but I don't think he'll re-sign after this year because he's frustrated about the tender. So secures the safety front basically for the next few years because we will re-sign Kyle Hamilton. Then you get the sleeper or the fall of the draft in Mike Green. We needed to address pass rush. It was a clear need. And I know people will say we had multiple guys with 10 sacks last year. That's true. Okay. We have a good pass rush. We can get to the quarterback, but we don't have a star. We don't have the guys that he's getting to that quarterback on third down, right? That's the type of guy that TJ Watt is, right? That Micah Parsons is, right? These elite pass rushers in the NFL, Myles Garrett as well. We don't have that. We don't even have, an older Khalil Mack that it just feels like, hey, they make the right plays in the right moments. Well, Mike Green hopes to become one of those types of players, potentially a future superstar that's already ready to play now. A lot of the times when we take these pass rushers, they're either currently injured, right? Like David Ojabo, which is why he had to wait a full year, or we get them and they're developmental, like Odafe Oweh. Not to say those are bad picks, but we get someone that can play right away and can develop as well into a star franchise cornerstone like a Mike Green. All right. Then you look at the offensive line and you say, hey, this is a concern. Some people are okay with the offensive line. They feel like Faalele is solid. They obviously love Ronnie. They love Roger Rosengarten, Tyler Linderbaum, and they feel like Voorhees can step in. I'm not one to say that that's not true. I feel like we should replace Daniel Faalele because I felt like his immobility hurt the Ravens in a lot of key situations. I don't think overall he's the worst guard in the NFL, but his limitations are much greater than a lot of other average guards, that you see across the league. So you go out and get Emory Jones, who you can transfer over to guard and could potentially start at guard right away. That's already immediate competition. Then you get just really good quality backups like Carson Vincent, who can develop into like the exact prototypical left tackle that you would want in the NFL. He has that type of frame, that type of tenacity, that viciousness, that mean attitude, that smart, just high IQ level player that Carson Vincent is. Really love that pick. And then with the final pick, you get a full-time left guard with Dellinger. All right. That is very valuable. Now, I don't know if necessarily he will make the team, but at least in camp, we have another guy that can go out there and say, hey, I at least know what I'm doing at left guard. Because the guys that are competing there, a lot of them don't play left guard outside of Voorhees, who really only played it last year coming off of his injury, and he didn't even start very many games. So just getting another guy that has true left guard experience, that's valuable. I think if there's one error in this draft class, it's, we didn't get a starting cornerback. But I don't necessarily think that was a major need. Now, could it have been addressed? Absolutely. Cheeto Awuzie is not an elite cornerback by any means, but he's been a starting cornerback in the NFL for the last 3 or 4 seasons, and he's not the worst cornerback in the NFL. I think he's an upgrade over Brandon Stevens, and we have Nate Wiggins going into year 2, and then obviously we have Marlon Humphrey. We have, guys on the bench that I think could develop or could potentially battle with Cheeto, like a TJ Tampa, who I think is really talented, just battle with some injuries. But we do get really good depth with BK and Longer Beam. Really good size, length, and speed with BK, and then just really good speed and a little bit more fluidity out of Longer Beam. I think that's just 2 really smart depth picks that help the Ravens at a position where you can never have too much depth, and was a concern for me because I felt like we just didn't have enough corners on the roster. Now I think we do. So I think that position is filled. And then the final pick that I haven't even really mentioned is LaJohntay Wester, who I think is actually, there's 2 guys I haven't mentioned, but the final big need that I haven't addressed was return specialist. This is something that Ravens fans have been missing since Jacoby Jones, maybe? That's how long it's been since I feel like we've had a guy where I'm like, oh, yeah, he's nice. And I don't want to discredit Devin Duvernay. He wasn't a bad returner. I think he was a solid returner, but he wasn't the massive big play guy. He did have a kick return touchdown against the Kansas City Chiefs, and I want to say he might have had one against the Jaguars, but it just didn't feel like Duvernay was just oh, you can't get it to Duve. LaJohntay Wester is that kind of guy in the punt return game. And I want to see what he can do in the kickoffs because, again, it's a different method. It's a little bit different, but he's just that quick twitch, that athletic. And I actually saw a quote from him from an interview with the Draft Network, and it's maybe my favorite personality I've seen so far. Basically, the quote is, I'm going to make an immediate impact right out the gate on special teams and at slot receiver. If you need me to be the hype man, that's what I'm going to be. I'm bringing juice and leadership to the table. I have a winner's mentality. That sounds like a Raven to me. That sounds like the exact type of player that we want, the exact type of locker room presence we want. He's also from Florida, and I know a lot of people know Lamar Jackson loves his Florida wide receivers. That's where he likes to work out. I expect LaJohntay to be at those workouts because he's just that type of energy guy. Kind of reminds me of Zay Flowers in terms of just his very happy, fun personality that people want to be around. I think he's going to bring a lot to the table, not just in the kick return game, but just as another wide receiver on the depth chart. Huge help for special teams. And then finally, maybe my favorite pick in the draft. I felt like we were waiting so long. We're not getting interior D-line. We're just not getting anybody. And then we go out and we get Fub, the best available defensive lineman, someone that can generate pass rush and plays a lot bigger than his 280-pound frame might suggest. He is a physical presence in the run game and in the passing game, and provides just another body that we can throw behind Matt Apike and Travis Jones to just keep this interior pressure going. That's one of the things that the Ravens do better than most teams in the NFL is a lot of their sacks do come from interior pressure. Not saying the interior guys get the sacks, but they force them out wide, and our edge guys, they set the edge, right? Guys can't get around Adafe, can't get around Kyle Van Noy, and that leads to a lot of those sacks. So boosting the interior defensive line was a very smart move, and I'm very happy with how this draft turned out. I put out a poll on YouTube, the community section, and I asked, what would you grade the Ravens? And I think about 25% of you said that you give it an A+, 50% said A, a little bit said B, and then 10% said like C or worse, which I think is ridiculous. This is a terrific draft class. I'd give this one an A, and I think that there's going to be a lot of immediate impact players, but unfortunately, not all of them are going to make the team. There's going to be UDFAs, which I'll have a video out tomorrow analyzing every UDFA, one of my favorite videos every year to make. So make sure to subscribe, check back tomorrow, see that video. But let me know in the comment section down below. What would you grade this draft? What was your favorite pick? What was your least favorite pick? But thank you all so much, and I will see all of you again tomorrow.